everyone, welcome to this old channel. It is a sort of misty grey day here, but not cold and not exactly warm either. Just the ideal weather and day for a mega chill. But I'm still dreaming about a day in bed with a good book. I can't see it happening soon though. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into today's video. I think in a way the state visit by the Trumps was an eye-opener like few other things in a time when many feel like I do, not knowing which direction to look in or what to believe anymore. I listen to other creators from time to time and I can't help but admire some of them for their hard work and their tenacity and their great delivery of their work. But dear God, every now and then I happen across one where the lying, the embroidery, the exaggeration and overall bullshit is so cringeworthy that I suffer from second-hand embarrassment. But you know what? I find that the biggest learning experience of all, namely bullshit sells, whether in reality or metaphorically. One example of this, before we get to the royals, must indeed be Sadik Khan. President Trump called him the worst mayor in the entire world. But what Trump and many others forget is that Khan is serving his third term, which means that he had been voted back twice, which just proves my point, doesn't it? There's a huge difference between London 2008, London 2014, and London 2024. And of course, it is all thanks to Sadik Khan. Yet, there he still is. Why? Because he was voted back in. Obviously, another perfect example can be found right here in our very own royal family. Yes, indeed, who else but Harry Markle and Meghan Markle? I'm yet to see so much bullshit coming from two people like we have seen coming from these two. Recently in the Guardian interview, Harry said he loves Britain. Actually, his exact words were, I have always loved the UK and I always will love the UK. So, ladies and gentlemen, may I kindly take you back to 2008, where in an interview shortly before leaving Afghanistan, he said this: "But I generally don't like England that much. And you know, it's nice to be away from all the press and the papers and all the general shite they write." And remember the so-called freedom flight? Yet now that he is desperate for Pa's money, now suddenly he loves the UK. Harry, as much as Meghan, also accused the royal family, the British media and British people of being racist. Yet now that they are desperate, Harry is willing to come back and do royal duties again in the same racist country, among the same racist people, and on behalf of the racist royal family. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. Now, when it comes to Meghan, her contradictory statements, dressed up and bejeweled as lies, are almost worse. But I personally hold Harry more responsible because he is British, and a member of the royal family. So in fact, I see him as the traitor. But let's quickly remind ourselves of a few things Meghan said which were contradictory and problematic. Meghan outright and out loud stated that she and Harry wanted a private life, yet all we have seen from them for the past 5 years were public appearances, media deals, arranged paparazzi shots. Goodness, she now even has 2 Instagram pages. She said the royals took her passport and keys, yet she travelled all over the world before and after her marriage. She also told the world that Archie did not get a title at birth because he was mixed race. And we can go on and on and on. But this is not about Meghan Markle's lies. That will keep us here for weeks. I think the woman who collects Meghan's lies, and those are only the bigger ones, was well over 100 last time I looked. I know it was something like 119 at some point, but she did post another list and I just cannot remember how many there were. Anyway, after everything was said and done, after Prince Philip and the Queen had died, still thinking that people believed Meghan and seeing them as racist bullies, a woman who has given 70 years of her life to her country and had Nelson Mandela call her by her first name. But like I said, after all this, we now heard Meghan say that she will return to England on condition that they can use their HRHs again, get their full 24/7 royal security back, and if they can have a home of their own. Allegedly, Meghan does not ever want to live in a royal or crown property ever again. Blah, blah, blah. The thing is that Meghan does not really want to go back again, but she knows that her financial future is unstable because her Netflix, Spotify, Lemonada, etc., had all failed. She knows that at her age, it is also not as easy to, say, snare a billionaire as it was when she was in her 20s. So yes, I think people who say Meghan will never set foot on British soil again are wrong. Meghan has a brass neck and a skin as thick as a rhinoceros. If the payoff is good enough, she will go. But I think there is a possibility that due to previous behaviors, she is indeed actually banned from certain places and palaces, particularly without an escort of sorts. And I think she will also need to be able to dodge eggs and rotten tomatoes from time to time. But I mean, if she is to get a cool million for each tomato, that will be fine too, I'm sure of that. Anyway, I think the fact that we don't see her in the United Kingdom much is not because she doesn't want to go, but basically because she's not wanted at the events and or is not invited. However, we are all turning to the big stuff, when often it is the small stuff which makes someone unsuitable for a position, a job, or even as a member of a family. We just had a glimpse of the royal family and their behavior at the banquet. From the moment they walked into that banquet hall, one can see the regal stance and body language. It is a gentle, almost striding stroll, and each one in the lineup is paying attention to the person they were paired up with. Now imagine Meghan, arms waving, huge big steps, and her eyes searching for the cameras. No poise. And the thing is that poise is drilled in from a relatively young age. It is not something you can learn at nearly 40. Or maybe you can learn. But the moment you are either engaged or relaxed, you forget and you are back to acting the way you always did. Now, although neither President Trump nor First Lady Melania drink any alcohol, there was the best of the best and a very generous wine list. Western Estate Cuvée 2016, Corton Charlemagne Grand Cru 2018, Ridge Vineyards Montebello 2000, and Paul Roger Extra Cuvée Reserve 1998. After dinner, there was alcohol presented, steeped in symbolism. A 1945 vintage port in honor of President Trump being the 45th President of the United States, and a 1912 cognac from the birth year of Trump's Scottish mother. There was also a very special cocktail, the Transatlantic Whiskey Sour. Now, President Trump does not drink at all and never has, as his brother Frank died of the effects of severe alcoholism. Trump's stance had always been, if you don't start, there won't be a risk of developing a problem. Add to that the fact that his wife does not drink alcohol at all, and it's easy for him to decline even the prettiest of cocktails, which is exactly what he did. Now, go put Meghan Markle, who does not appear to ever be without a drink in her hand, in that specific scenario. One where there is enough alcohol before, during, and after the event to get an entire army drunk, and all for free. I believe that Meghan is an alcoholic, and sometimes I wonder whether that is why she had never been invited to a state banquet. That, and of course this. Who of you have ever seen how Meghan eats? Oh my Lord, I have issues, okay? OCD, ADD, and so forth. And one of the things I cannot do is sit at a table with someone who can't eat properly or decently, or chews weirdly or loudly, or stuff their mouths too full. I either get very irritable or downright nauseous. Well, Meghan basically does all of that. And then she has this thing where she sticks her tongue out when she opens her mouth. And I imagine she then slurps the food in. I mean, something like an elephant's trunk rolling the food into her mouth. Ugh, and when she stuffs her mouth until her cheeks bulge. I mean, yuck, 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 yuck. You see, Meghan lacked that initial, what shall one call it, refinement. Her mom wasn't around, and Victoria was so involved in drugs and the alternative lifestyle at the time that she could not give a hoot about Meghan. And Meghan's father was always working. For example, as we approached our early teens, my father started drilling us. He would walk past us and give us a slap on the back and say, "Walk up straight." Or he would walk past and say, "Close your legs, a girl does not sit like that." Or, "Close your mouth, I do not want to see or hear what you are eating." "Check yourself in the mirror. Once you step outside, it is too late." "Smaller steps, you are not a camel." "Girls who sit on tables will never find husbands," and on he went. We did not get lectures or classes, but instead it became a habit, just part of everyday life. Now, Meghan did not have that, I'm sure, although I find it strange that Immaculate Heart did not have some sort of class once or twice a week where the basics were taught. I had a friend, Jenny, whose father was a mine manager when we were kids, and she went to Catholic school, and they were taught decorum and housekeeping once or twice per week. Anyway, I think Meghan may be unteachable, so even if she had some input, I'm sure she always thought she knew better. The point is that if you have presidents and other royals over, you have to present your best. You cannot afford to have a quasi-royal at your table bending over her plate like she is going to wrestle every morsel of it and finishing it in 2 mouthfuls and stagger away drunk afterwards. I mean, just imagine that for yourselves. So, the big stuff is one thing and actually much easier to control. I mean, hey, if someone has sticky fingers and likes to lift the odd trinket from a palace, then you can keep surveillance on them. But what do you do if they have a mouth like a foghorn and the manners of a pig? Well, my dears, all you can do is to put them out in the backyard. So, honestly, I think Charles had forgotten all of this, but William and Catherine had not. So maybe the king can entertain Harry and Meghan in Romania, visit with them in his home there, or meet them on some island. Maybe at his home on the Isle of Scilly, a place where there are not too many people, so that the embarrassment can be contained. The issue is also the longer it takes for those 2 children to be exposed to royal life, the more and more difficult it will be for them to adapt. The less chance they will have to have the correct manners, the style, the decorum. I mean, all you need to do is look at Lily at 4 and look at Charlotte at 4. And don't only look at what they are wearing, but look at their hair and overall neatness. Lily often looks as if a brush had not touched her hair in weeks. I mean, I feel sorry for those children because I think the day they are old enough to understand where they came from, they are going to be very, very confused. Okay, guys, off I go. Tomorrow I'll again post in my members only channel. I do not know exactly what yet, but I have an idea. I'm just hoping that Dragon Man will be willing to accompany me. Maybe if I tell him that you are asking him, he will. Anyway, we'll see. That teenager stage is one thing I wish I could have skipped, although I must admit that Dragon Man is actually much easier than many others. Anyway, he has been chosen to the student council, I think I told you that, and has been invited to a leadership camp. Now, he has not ever camped, so he needs everything. Sleeping bag, tracksuit, swimming trunks, you name it. So the young man needs to work for his gains. Call it blackmail if you want. I call it life lessons. And on that note, I bid you goodbye, take care, and stay safe. Bye.